Hi guys, welcome back. In this session, we're going to be covering question 5 of your business analysis practice course. So, as normal, we'll just read through the question first to get an overview. So it says here that Kulwinder has been researching a competitor organization. An introduction to its most recent company report reads, having been established in the market for 20 years, we are now the leading supplier of widgets to the building industry. Our aim is to become the most innovative company in this sector through increasing our investment in research and development. This, we believe, will ensure we retain our market share, profitability, and dividend payments. Which of the following is most likely to be the company's mission? This statement describes the company's, so what they're asking us for here is to select the most likely outcome for the company's mission. And we have to select one of these four answers here. The answers that have been provided are to be the leading supplier of widgets, to be at the forefront of widget innovation, to spend 5% on turnover on research and development, and to maintain market share, profitability, and dividend payments. So, from the instructions of the question, it's asking us to find the mission from these four selections here. And we have to find the most likely outcome. Usually these types of questions are a little bit more tricky because the most likely outcome is really indicating that there could be features of the other answers that could sort of steer us off course and make us think that those could also be the mission. But we need to really define which of these is the best option to select. So we need to first understand and know what the mission is. The mission, the mission statement. So what do we know about the mission statement? The mission statement is a statement that describes the core purpose. It's the reasoning behind why the organization exists. And it's often linked to the VMOST, the vision, mission, objectives, strategy, and tactics. So what we need to do here is ultimately look at the scenario here and try and eliminate some of these questions and then identify what the mission of this organization is. So it says that to be the leading supplier of widgets. If we look back to our scenario, it says here in the statement in the middle, it says, having been established in the market for 20 years, we are now the leading supplier of widgets to the building industry. So, if we were creating a mission statement, do you think we would create a mission statement based on what the organization has already achieved? I don't think so. And in this case, the first answer says to be the leading supplier of widgets. So why would the organization want to be the leading supplier of widgets when it already is? And why would we want to create a mission statement to enhance or justify the reason for our organization's existence if this is something that they've already achieved? Then if we have a look through the scenario a little bit more, it says our aim is to become the most innovative company in this sector through increasing our investment in research and development. So what we can see here is that they are looking to become the most innovative company. And through this scenario, we can see that they are a supplier of widgets. That's part of the industry. But their aim in terms of why they want to exist as an organization is really about innovation. It's not about the supply of widgets. Maybe potentially in the past, their mission or the vision may have been linked to the supply of widgets. But now we are creating a mission statement and it's linked to the concept of innovation rather. And what we also know about mission statements is that it's usually done through a course of action. So the mission is achieved through objectives and strategy. But here they actually say, in the sector, we will do this through increasing our investment in research and development. So if we look at the selection B, to be at the forefront of widget innovation, this is way more likely to be the mission statement of the organization at this point in time. Selection A is not. Now, if we look at the other two selections here, it says to spend 5% of turnover on research and development. Now, in this scenario here, which we read, it says our aim is to become the most innovative company in the sector through increasing our investment in research and development. That is indicating the how as to how they're going to achieve the mission. This is more linked to the strategy. It's the how or the tactics, but it's way more inclined to be part of the strategy, because the strategy is the overarching how or plan of how they're actually going to do it. So C is linked to the how, which is more likely to be part of an objective. So it's saying to spend 5% of turnover on research and development. Because if we look at the VMOST, the aspects of the VMOST and what we know about it, we know that the VMOST has the vision, which is a single statement. We have the mission, which is a single statement. We have the objectives, which are multiple statements, and we have the tactics, which are multiple statements. But we can also split them into two categories in terms of a short term and a long term. The vision is a long-term, the long-term aspirational end goal in terms of what the organization sees itself in terms of the state that it wants to be in. The mission is the why, but it's the long-term why. It takes place throughout the whole project. It's more of an overarching reasoning behind why the organization is doing what it is doing. The objectives are usually what is known as SMART. They're specific, measurable, achievable, and there's usually multiple objectives in order to fulfill the strategy or carry out the strategy and fulfill the mission, so fulfill its purpose and reach its vision. The tactics will be the specific actions that need to be done in order to reach the objectives as they're carrying out the strategy and as they're fulfilling the mission and reaching the vision. So question C here, because it's measurable and it's much more of a more detailed, specific statement, it's way more likely to be an objective. There's nothing that is showing us or indicating that it is part of its overarching reasoning behind why it should exist. Then we can also see here that it is more short-term. So to spend 5% of turnover on research and development would be way more of a short-term plan or objective or goal or aim to get to, rather than to be at the forefront of widget innovation, which is much more longer term. It's much more of an overarching statement. Then if we look at selection D, which is to maintain market share, profitability, and dividends. Now, this statement to me seems to be linked to a much smaller outcome. So almost part of the strategy, part of what the result of carrying out the strategy would ultimately achieve. So it doesn't lend itself to being the main reason why the organization exists. So D would be potentially part of the strategy or a tactic. It doesn't sound like an objective either, but it would be. It's definitely not a mission statement. It just doesn't fit in well with the context of the scenario. So we can see from this that to be at the forefront of widget innovation is way more likely to be the correct answer, as it fulfills the current overarching core purpose of the organization. It's not a statement as an A, which is to be the leading supplier of widgets, which is something that they've already achieved. And it's not a smaller, more specific, detailed statement about the actions and the objectives which would be carried out along this journey that the organization is trying to transform and reach its target state. So students often get confused about aspects of the VMOST. And it's very important to know the differences between these aspects, because carrying out a VMOST is highly beneficial when you can in your organization, as it gives you clarity, it gives you direction, and it gives you purpose. So let's just go through some of these features of each of the aspects of the VMOST, so that if you do get any other questions such as this, that you'll be a little bit more prepared. So the vision is a single statement, not like the objectives or the tactics. It's a single statement that is aspirational. It's talking about the future, distant state of the organization. It's the final target state of the organization. We can sort of see it as though if our organization were on this transformational journey, the vision would be the end goal. It would be right at the end. But in terms of a textual, in terms of writing down these aspects of the VMOST in a textual format, it will be a single aspiring statement that is there to inspire us and almost perceive in terms of where we would like to get to, and drive us and excite us towards this vision of the future in terms of what we want the organization to look like. So the vision statement also, you've got to remember, is it often doesn't have any regard for the actual actions, objectives, or things that need to be done in order to reach that point in the future. It's just describing where they want to be. And it won't be saying we need to do this, or we need to reach this goal, or do this. There'd be no context around that type of statement. So it's broad. It's a broad statement, and it answers the question: where do we want to be in the future? So it's the main point in the future where we want to be, but it's ultimately what we are dreaming to become. If we look at an example of a school, let's say that we had a school that is an organization, it's a type of organization, and it wants to incorporate new modern technologies into the school to assist its learners and also for the learners to learn about new technologies and become a more modern, current school at the forefront of technological advancement. So the vision of this organization, when they are carrying out this type of strategy, would potentially be a statement such as to be the leading provider of modern technological tuition for school children. Do you see, it's not giving us any context really about what they are going to be doing or what they need to achieve in order to get there on this journey. It's more a statement about where they want to be in terms of their dreams and aspirations. Now, the mission is also a single short statement. And just like the vision, it's also long-term, but it's just a single statement that is describing about the reasoning or why the organization exists. It's their main purpose for doing what they are doing. And it's not about what they've already achieved. An organization's mission is not a statement about, look at how well we've done in the past. It's about, look at how well we're doing now, or what we should be doing now in order to reach this vision. So it answers the question, why? Why is the organization doing this? why are they doing it, and what are they doing to get there. So if we go back to our school example, a mission statement for the school could be to modernize educational outcomes through the use and teachings of new technologies. Do you see the difference between the vision and the mission here? These statements. The vision was more aspirational. It wasn't describing any of the aspects of what they're doing and why they're doing it, but it was describing a future state, a dreamlike, imaginary future state. And the mission was a statement about what they are going to be achieving and why they're doing it. So, and it's an overarching statement. It's not a specific, detailed statement about what's going to be transpiring along this journey. Now, if we go to the objectives, the O elements of the VMOST, objectives now, the difference between the vision, mission, and objectives is that the objectives, we need multiple objectives in order to reach our end goal. If you think of our journey, we've got the vision at the end of the journey, the mission, the purpose throughout the duration of why we're doing it, justification in terms of why the organization is existing at this current point in time and why it should exist in the future. But the objectives are these specific points in time along the journey that we need to reach. We need to specifically achieve these goals in order to eventually reach our end goal, which is the vision, and to fulfill the purpose of the mission, and to carry out the strategy. So the objectives are ultimately like the fuel. It's the points in time. It's not what we specifically have to do, but it's the points on our journey in terms of what we need to reach. And we'll have multiple objectives in order to carry out our strategy, in order to reach our final vision, and to fulfill the mission, to fulfill the purpose of why the organization exists. And objectives also need to be what is known as SMART. They need to be specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant, and time-bound. So SMART elements help us to define define our objectives so that we can, along the way, we can decide if we are actually reaching these objectives. And this is when that whole aspect of performance measurement comes into play. We can then create KPIs and CSFs around these performance measures to measure these targets, to measure to see if we really are achieving these objectives along the way. If we're not achieving these objectives while we're carrying out our strategy, then there's something wrong. There's something wrong with our strategy, and we are not heading in the right direction towards our vision. So they are simply clear milestones that are used to guide and measure progress towards the organization's vision and the completion of the mission. So it's what we need to achieve along the journey and to reach this destination. So if we go back to our school example, the school that wants to enhance its technological capabilities and teach children about new modern technologies and be at the forefront of modern innovative educational institutes, we can say that, let's say an example here for an objective of this VMOST would be to implement new teaching technologies in 50% of classes within a year. Another one could be to enhance the adoption of new technologies by 25% of students within 6 months. And another example, because we have multiple objectives, to increase operating profit by 10% per year. Now we can see here that a lot of these have got percentage figures in them, because it's indicating that they can be measured. If we don't reach 50%, we don't reach 25% or 10%, then we're not reaching our objectives. And often they'll have an element of time in the statement, such as a year, within 6 months, so that we know at what point in time we need to reach these objectives. They also need to be clear and relevant. So that if they also are not achievable, then what is the point of having an objective? So that's showing us how the aspects of SMART can be brought into the objectives. The strategy now. The strategy is also a long-term approach. It's the decisions that the organization or the high-level stakeholders, the senior decision makers, the executives of the organization will make the main overarching decisions, or this plan of how the organization is to get from where it currently is to where it wants to be. So that's the strategy. It's the decisions. It's the plan in terms of how are we going to reach the vision? How are we going to fulfill the mission? And how are we going to reach our objectives along the way? What will happen is that all these senior members of the organization will get together and decide what the best course of action will be in order to fulfill the strategy. But the strategy also feeds into other aspects of the VMOST. So if we look at our school example, we can say that the strategy may be to recruit and retain the best computer science tutors in the area. Or it could be to deliver teachings in a modern learning environment using new technologies. Do you see that the strategy is indicating a plan and it's indicating actions in terms of what the organization should do, but it is way more of a high level. It's not very specific. It's more of a high level decision or an overview so that aspects of the objectives and the tactics can fit underneath it, or can be developed based on a clear strategy. So we also then finally, of the part of the VMOST, we have the tactics. And these are the specific detailed means or actions. They're the actionable tasks in terms of carrying out the strategy and reaching the objectives. They are what we are going to be doing, the specifics of what we're going to be doing along the way, along our journey to reach the vision, to fulfill the mission, and to carry out the strategy, and also reach the specific objectives along the way. They're the specific actions. And tactics also are often adapted in terms of feedback. So along the journey, people might be information that is brought into the project, and they'll adapt the tactics as they go in order to mold it or focus it on these objectives. Okay. A few examples. So tactics will also there'll be multiple tactics, and they in the short term. They're not a long-term thing in terms of what we're doing. They're shorter-term things, and there'll be multiple statements. But it's the things that we'll do in order to reach our objectives. And if we go back to our example, a couple of the tactics may be to work and collaborate with tech tutors, or to pay above the market rate for tech tutors, or to implement new teaching devices in classrooms. So, just like a journey, as we've said before, the vision is the final destination. It's where we want to be at the end of our journey. It's the dreamlike, imaginary state, the vision of what the perfect state the organization should be in after this transformation has taken place. If we were hiking and we wanted to reach the summit of a peak, we could imagine ourselves standing at the peak of this summit, then and taking in the beautiful views. Being at that point in time, that would be the vision. But the vision statement for this could be something like standing on the summit of this mountaintop and taking in the breathtaking views and feeling the sense of achievement. That would be the vision statement for a journey such as this, climbing up a mountain. Now, the mission is, why are we on this journey? We may be doing it for health reasons. We could be doing it for accomplishments, accolades, personal goals. We could even be doing it for a charity. So an example of a simple example of being on of a mission on this type of a journey, going to the top of a mountain, could be to reach the peak for personal achievements and promote physical health and through our charities. So that could be an example of a mission statement. It's a single overarching statement of why are we doing what we need to do. Then the objectives, what we need to achieve to get there. What are these specific things we need to get there? We could say we need to reach base camp by day 4. We need to reach the midpoint by day 6. Let's say we need to reach the summit by day 7. We may even say that we need to document the journey with photos. So those could be the objectives, like the things that we need to do along the journey to reach our end goal, or the things that need to be done to be fulfilled and achieved for us to reach our end goal. So the strategy, this is the plan, the overarching plan of how we're going to do this, how we're going to do this journey. And that could be something like following a mapped route, using guides to help us along the way, and to take regular breaks and ensure that we're in peak physical condition before we do it. So that would be more of an overarching strategy, a good plan of action in order to get to this point in time, get to the summit. Now the tactics, what do we actually need to do to get there? We need to gather our resources, get food together. We need to give each climber the right amount of food, give each climber the right amount of equipment. We need to walk to a certain point. We may need to climb to a certain point. This is the specific tactics in terms of what we need to do. So, just to summarize, the tactics are what we will do along the journey, the specific actions that will be detailed in multiple statements in the short term, and they are specific. The objectives are what we will achieve along the journey. What are these things that we are going to accomplish along the way in order to, a culmination of the objectives will ultimately fulfill the strategy, will fulfill the mission, or rather carry out the strategy, fulfill the mission, and reach the vision. And they are multiple. We'll have multiple objectives along the journey to reach these objectives in order to reach our goals, our main goals. But the objectives are the short-term goals, and they're also very specific, and there'll be multiple objectives. Then the strategy is how we're going to do it. It's the plan of action. And it's also the long term. It's the long-term decisions and plan of how we're actually going to reach these main objectives. It's the decisions that the makers, the planners, are going to do in order to help us define all the other elements in order to get there. Then the mission is why we are doing this, and it's also long-term. It's a long-term thing. It's throughout the duration of this whole journey. It's the overview, and it's a single statement. Then finally, we have the vision, is where we want to ultimately be. It's the dream, but it's also a single statement, and it's also the long term. It's an overview of the culmination of all of these activities in this project or this transformational journey. It's the ultimate goal. It's an aspirational view of where we want to get, where we want to be, far distant in the future after we've done everything else. So why is the VMOST important, you may ask? Why do we even need to do all of this stuff? Well, it provides clarity, it provides direction, and it provides purpose. If we don't have clarity, we don't have direction, we don't have purpose, then we'll be standing around and we'll be saying, what are we even doing with ourselves here? What are we doing with this project? What are we doing with this organization? So it helps us to define these things. The vision gives us clarity by clarifying where we want to get to in terms of the organization. The objectives, the strategy, all of these elements clarify in terms of what we need to do, what we need to achieve, and how we're going to do it. or even what are we even doing? It clarifies these aspects. It gives us direction. The vision gives us direction because it shows us where the direction in terms of where we're heading at the end goal. The objectives give us direction because it knows where we need to go in order to achieve these smaller achievements or these smaller targets in order to fulfill this entire purpose. The purpose is fulfilled through the mission. It's telling us why are we doing this along the way. It gives us drive. It gives us justification for doing it. So it's very important to create VMOST when you've got huge, very large projects in your organization, or even when you are in the operational context, because it gives you these things. It gives you purpose. It gives you clarity. It gives you direction. It gives you a vision. So I hope that's given some insight. I've given you a bit more in terms of what this question was being answered on, but it will still help you if you ever get a question about the VMOST in the future or aspects of the VMOST. And I'll see you in the next question. Hope you have a nice day.